I want to go over a couple things. I mentioned before about the equities not being a good place to be. You're probably a hell of a lot better off being in silver for one time, because silver traditionally has always been a very volatile asset known as high risk. Actually, precious metals and commodities have always been known as high risk areas, high reward. If you have a lot of patience. The one thing is, I'm going to get on with some real common sense stuff too, but also another thing to indicate that equities aren't the place to be. Also, I just want to bring this out. Actually, from 17 years, from I think it was 64 through, from December 31st, 1964 to December 31st, 1981, the industrial average, Dow Jones Industrial Average, went from 874 to 875. It moved up 1 point in 17 years. So, this could be the type of thing that we're going through now. It's not going to go like, totally flat, but what I think is going to happen is there's going to be this major correction. Then there'll be a recovery that'll take a long time. And it'll go on to massive QE, massive stimulus, and all this kind of garbage. And it probably will affect the commodities, too, when they do it, because I don't know how the hell they're going to unwind the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve, too. That's another deal. I really don't know how they're going to do all that. Nobody does. That's the big question. All the stuff the Federal Reserve bought out that were troubled assets, what are they going to do with it? They can't stay on the balance sheet forever. And they just can't keep buying troubled assets forever. So, they keep the valuations up, right? But anyway, it's like, everybody forgets this. It's almost like when you see a long pattern going up like this, everybody thinks it's going to go up like that forever. Right now, silver looks like a long, depressing pattern. It's been going down and it's staying flat, right? I don't think it's going to lose a lot of value from where it is now because they're not really making money on the metal the way they should be. They're not going to be able to invest. You heard all these things, Barrick Gold and also big gold manufacturer, big gold miners in Canada, and basically abandoning projects. It is too low. It's probably profitable going bare bones skeleton mining operations on existing areas where all the capital expenditures are already spent. But when that supply runs out, it's like they got to go into new areas, and that requires a lot of upfront capital. And at this price, it ain't going to happen, and it's a necessary freaking commodity. But I also want to point out a lot of different common sense things here because kind of jump around a little bit because, one thing a lot of people might wonder is, say silver goes up a lot. You will exchange it for U.S. dollars at the time of sale, and then you're going to go into another capital asset or something, or some other venture, or some other investment. There's going to be a limit to how high silver's going to go. I think the thing is, with silver, it's going to be tricky because it's probably going to go a hell of a lot higher than too high. And it's going to rocket up. And it's traditionally, you got to look at history. You just can't read like articles and crap like that or people's BS opinions. I look at history. What has history shown us with silver? What has it done in the last so many decades? When it went up exponentially all at once. It's one of these things that kind of goes like this, then it goes like that, and it takes off like a rocket. Everybody gets excited, everybody buys it, then and it crashes. That's really what happens. So if you got it now when it's boring and stuff, you're cool. You're actually cool. You got to have some patience. You can't put all your money into it, but you're cool. It's going to come out and play out. Now, I just want to talk about some of the things that you might be thinking about for the next venture. Now, I got some of this from Warren Buffett, too. You got to respect this guy because he makes a lot of money. And he wasn't stupid, I'll tell you that. He's not stupid. He's not stupid at all. And actually, common sense goes a long way. Well, a couple things he said. First off, an area that may be a hot market, like take it the turn of this century, the automobile was coming on into the scene, right? Oh, I can invest in the automobile, right? Wouldn't you think that's a great investment? Now, if you ventured into invested into Ford Motor Company, great. You'd be like making all kinds of money all these years. The stock would have went up. You've been paying all kinds of dividends and everything else. General Motors had been doing great up to a few years ago, but it would be doing great for decades. But out of the 2,000 car companies that were actually coming out in the beginning, 2000, yeah, 2000. Only a few of them really survived, right? So, like, when you're looking at this next venture that's out there, you might be thinking, yeah, solar panels is going to be the freaking hot ticket. Oh, nanotechnology is going to be the hot ticket. Carbon fiber buildings and structures is going to be a hot ticket. Capacitors and storage of energy with capacitors is going to be a hot ticket. Engines running by compressed air is going to be the hot ticket. Hydrogen coming from water is going to be the hot ticket. Yes, the idea might be correct. The problem is you got to look at the company. And that's where the big danger is. The concept may be right, but you can lose your ass. So I want to put that out there for you, not to give you any specific advice, but there's going to be loads of freaking people pushing all these startup ventures, which most of them are going to be losers. And a few are going to be exponential high good winners. But just my point on that deal is because when you make the next move, you may actually find that the idea is correct, the concept is correct. Only a few of those companies are actually going to come out and do very, very well. The example I gave was the automotive industry. Look what happened with the original 2000 companies. Most of them went under, right? Well over 1,995 of them were done, right? So, that's a great example. That's a great example. Now, one way you can't lose on silver is your dollar cost average. Now, my dollar cost average is actually way the hell below where the hell it is now. I don't think I've bought anything that high, Well, very few of them. Very few. Dollar cost average is one of the big tickets to freaking success. If you're buying any commodities and you're patiently buying silver dollar cost average, you're going to beat it. You're going to beat everybody else. It's a simple rule. It's too simple, right? Max Kaiser also, he talks about the dollar going down. And you have to mention this guy because I'm going to call him out. He mentions the dollar going down to like oblivion, the dollar's toast. I really find this guy ludicrous in a lot of ways because he's aggravating me because I realize he's probably working for U.S. dollars and he's not really, you know what I'm talking about. He's got no problem with taking U.S. dollars for whatever he's putting out, his jokes or whatever the hell he's putting out. But, the one thing I have to point out, I would definitely take dollars over rubles. And he seems to be a proponent of Russia today. Their economy, they're better than us. Everything's better. Yet, when you look at the Russian ruble, it's been in a slide against the dollar like this. Actually, if you had silver versus the Russian ruble over the last year, you'd be doing very well. It'd be going up like this compared to the Russian ruble. Because the Russian ruble, compared to the dollar, has been going like this. The Russian stock market has been down 23% in 2014 alone. If that happened in the U.S. stock market, you'd hear the alternative media freaking going, the sky is falling, everything in America is bad. Well, I'm going to tell you this, too. The stock market and the economy have not always run together. It's another one of Warren Buffett's type things. Now, I'm not really a fan of Warren Buffett, but it's like I'm not really a fan of George Soros, but I respect a lot of things they say. And it's like the economy and the stock market don't actually jive. Like, in other words, I gave that example from December 31st, 1964 to December 31st, 1981. The stock market literally went nowhere. It was 874. It went up 1 point to 875. If you take that time period. The economy went exponentially higher. It boomed like crazy. From 64 to 81, the economy was doing it fantastic. So what the hell is it? The stock market and the economy are, and you could say, well, I don't think the Fed really was dealing, influencing the markets back then the way they were now. That actually came about, that plunge. I forget what the hell they call it, but they nickname it the plunge protection team with the Equities. That came on board with Reagan when they had the crash of 87 in October 87. So markets and the economy aren't necessarily linked. But right now, the stocks are extremely overvalued. Historically, it's ridiculous. They're ridiculously skewed. And since they went up, everybody's pointing to you like you're, I guess you would have been smart to be, if everybody's Well, there's only a small percentage that are actually going to get it right. Most people get it wrong. But just the thing is, you got to look at historical facts, not drama, not what's going on right now. But when the stock market has been like as much overvalued as it is today, don't expect it to go anywhere in the next 10 years. It ain't going to do crap. It may go up a little more, but if it goes up more, it's probably going to have a major reset. Then it's going to have a recovery. And probably, like, if you looked at the stock market now and the stock market several years from now, it might not be going anywhere. And even if there's an economic recovery, like a good economic recovery. Because I just gave that example from 64 to 81. There was a great economic boom going on pretty much through most of the 60s and 70s had some recessions and stuff, but it basically didn't go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere. U.S. productivity, GDP was going way the hell up during that time, and the stocks weren't going anywhere. Then they took off later in the 80s, and they crashed in 87. They don't really link. They don't really link, and a lot of people don't get that through their head. And when you're talking about the stocks are overvalued right now, people are ignoring that. I look at George Soros' big bearish bet, and he's talking about, he doubled down on that bearish bet in 2014. He made a huge bearish bet in August of 2013. He's holding on. He's going to make out. He'll cash it in, and he'll make out like a fat rat. So anyway, you got to look at history more than a bunch of little stupid articles. Also, you don't want to keep looking constantly at the price of silver, what it's doing. I don't always look. I look at it casually every day because, I want to see if any surprise came up. Because actually, a lot of these updates that I do are more psychological for investors. That I want them to stay true to their investment and get in the investment now at these low levels, and not be afraid to sell later on when it does go up exponentially. And I know I am not going to be able to guess exactly what the exact peak of silver is, and nobody is. Somebody's going to guess it by the law of averages, but it's going to be a matter of sheer luck. Okay? I think that, I go by Fibonacci points. I think Fibonacci has a lot of weight in the markets. Big overall Fibonacci point. I think if it breaks through 50 solidly, it's going to go quite a bit past 50. Probably to 65, maybe in a fib point is 72 to 75 after that. It's a major fib point. That is a hell of a gain from where it is now. And, looking at what's coming up with all the bank compliance rules, the Volcker rule I just put out about, that's coming up from the OCC, the Office of Currency, Comptroller of Currency, whatever that is, OCC. They're making the banks compliant by July 2015. The rule is starting to come into effect April 1st, 2014. And that's basically going to cause the banks not to be able to play in the market and influence the market. So I think silver and everything is going to start rising. A lot of prices are going to rise. And you're going to need silver to freaking protect yourself. Now, I'm actually going to get on to some other things, I think, with protection against EMP. Not going to get into anything crazy, but I'm basically going to because I think what's coming up here, some of the stuff that the alternative worrywarts always talk about is that economic wars and currency wars lead to real wars. And the one thing I think that could probably be the biggest problem for the United States would be an EMP, because we got so much electronic gizmos out there, which means YouTube will be done and everything. I don't know. That's just how it's going to happen. So I want to put this out beforehand. But maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. I'll probably have some protected stuff myself. I don't really know. But one of the things I want to put out later on is basically simple tech, and tech that actually doesn't require electronics for your energy sources, your food sources, and travel sources, vehicle sources. And that's one reason I've always kept cars that are pre-90s, because of there could always be something that can come up. When it happens, it'll happen unexpectedly. I really don't want to think about it happening, but it could happen. It could happen. Actually, Vladimir Putin has just reinstated Stalin's fitness program in Russia. Now, Russia always had kind of like, they got physical education in all the schools, but he reinstated basically the old Stalin program. The old Stalin program is, really pushing physical fitness for all Russians. Be ready for labor, be ready for defense. So he's kind of like gearing up to populate. He's a real military guy, man. Well, if I was a leader of the U.S., I'd be a real military guy. I'm a military guy in a way, but I am not like him. Guy's a yo-yo to the max. He's a greedy bastard. I'd be a lot more giving if I'd never have that kind of money Putin ever had, because I'd be a lot more giving. He's a greedy bastard. But you actually, when you're making these investments and stuff in silver, you just have to remember about, it does freaking stay flat a long time. But I have been saying this over and over again. I don't know when the hell these geopolitical events are going to happen, but geopolitical events is really what's going to drive up oil and gold, and thus silver. It is. And, it could be in the Middle East. It could be Ukraine. It looks like, I think it's a sure bet that Putin is going to take the eastern Ukraine. There's all kinds of freaking turmoil going on in Kiev. There's massive troops of freaking stuff going on next to the border of Ukraine. That'll drive actually, you see the price on the oil going up, on WTI going up to 101. And it's what may happen. What may happen is when Ukraine is being invaded, it may be an attack on Syria and Iran at the same time. At the same time that's all going on. I don't know. But if that's the case, you're going to see silver, gold, oil, especially oil and gold, fly up quite a bit due to geopolitical intentions. Gold is a psychological asset more than anything. It really is. It really is. I know people say, oh, the fundamental intrinsic value of gold, it's really money. It's more a psychological asset than anything. I personally, for that reason, I don't really like gold too much, because I'd rather have palladium than gold. For that reason. Because I think palladium, the main reason I really kind of like silver too is that since it's so commonly known, it's more of an industrial metal. But palladium is like really an industrial metal to the max. And they really can't do without it. And there's only one place it really comes from mostly. 43% of the world's global supply of palladium comes from Russia. So, with geopolitical tensions with Russia, you're probably going to see palladium go way the hell up. I don't know where, but I think it's got to at least exceed the price of gold. I'd like to see gold go up to 5,000. I'd like to see palladium go up to 20,000. That'd be all right. And everything else go down. I don't want to see the American people hurting with inflation. I just want to make a lot of money on silver, gold, and palladium and platinum. That's really what it is. And oil too, maybe. But I'd rather lose the money on oil and see the American people do very well and have cheap access to energy and food prices too. Because that's personally how I think. I just do think that oil is going to go way the hell up. When Putin strikes Ukraine, I think he is for sure. I think that's going to. I don't know this, but I think he is. I think he is. I mean, what the hell is he putting all his... Same deal. He put all the troops around the Crimea, and then he struck the Crimea, and he's putting all the troops around the eastern Ukraine. There's all kinds of freaking stuff going on inside the country. And guess what he's going to do? I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. I mean, he's just biding his time. He's playing chess. It's probably not going to happen immediately, but it's going to happen fairly soon. It's maybe over this spring. And, that would actually coincide with an opportune, perfect timing to knock out Syria and Iran. So, and you never know. It could be a back deal, too. It could be a back deal between the global leaders. Putin gets part of Ukraine in exchange for the West and Israel getting their way in Syria, knocking out Assad and knocking out the leadership in Iran. You never know. That could be. I wouldn't rule that out. Man. You know what I mean? So, and I know there's a lot of anti-Israeli stuff out there that's supposed to be man, I'm telling you right now. I'm going to tell you right now. Actually, Israel is basically part of the USA. Pretty much. As much as people don't want to hear that sometimes, I'm not Jewish. I mean, I'm like, I'm not Jewish, right? Okay? I'm just saying Israel is pretty much part of USA. It pretty much is. And I guess people, they theorize that everything's like, one big huggy-feely world, and they don't realize how radical Islamic law is, and how radical some of the religious people are in that worship, Muhammad. They don't realize it till they're immersed in it. They could theorize it, but basically they're radical. They're radical as all hell. A lot of them. And it's less a religion than an actual political movement. All right? I mean, people ain't going to like that, but that's really what it is. And I don't know why it's getting so much strength lately. It could be the powers that be want to create a world war. I don't really know. Maybe. But anyway, I'm going to actually put out some more stuff on how-to generators and stuff like that, because I think we're going into, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we don't go to Mad Max territory or some shit like that. But what's going to save the day in the United States is old tech versus new tech. And, it might go back to old money, which is silver, right? It might go back to old money. We actually need to have a fitness program here in the United States like Putin's pushing for over in Russia. He's resurrecting the Stalin program. And, I would urge people, instead of freaking, people get a lot of checks from the government. I don't get any checks from the government. I don't get anything from the military. I don't get nothing, right? A lot of people get all these checks from the government, and they don't really produce anything or try to do things on their own. They just take their check, they do this, and we got a lot of lazy slackers in the United States. That's 99% of the freaking problem, to tell you the truth. That's 99% of the problem. And that's extremely unfortunate. But anyway, just on a bright note, at the end of this, I want to put a clip of Rocky the cat. You saw Putin here just sitting on my chair yesterday. Rocky is doing good, man. This cat is doing pretty damn good. I'm surprised. He's like, every day he's getting to be more of a friendly cat. He purrs, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like the cat whisperer, man. I don't know. Maybe that's partly like a leadership trait. You got to inspire your cat to feel confident or whatever the hell it is. You know what I mean? You used to freaking be scared of everything, but it's part of leadership, right? You got to give people confidence, and have confidence in silver. The stock market, there's always going to be some areas that will do great, but overall it's probably going to do shitty for like many years. It probably is, and if it goes up, it's going to be due strictly to inflation. And if that's the case, there's going to be other assets out there that are going to do far better than the equities market. But anyway, I'm going to put a small clip of Rocky after this, and just keep those words of wisdom about dollar cost averaging your silver, and look at history versus current events too much. Look at history. Silver's got some history behind it. So you're now the cat that likes to be petted all the time, and you purr, right? You purr? You make some noise? Huh? What are you doing? Well, you sure changed, buddy. I can't believe it. Never were like this before. Never. Right? Now you're purring all the time and you want to be petted, right? Good show there, Rocky. Good show, right? Right? You be a camera hog?